It was a quiet Monday morning in downtown Atlanta, and the buzz of a new work week echoed through the high-rise buildings that lined the heart of the city. Inside the glossy marble lobby of Echelon Realty, one of the Southeast's most successful real estate companies, employees shuffled in with coffee cups, hurried footsteps, and conversations about weekend plans and client meetings. No one gave a second glance to the tall, broad-shouldered man in an off-the-rack suit who stepped inside with a humble smile and a clipboard in hand. He looked like any other contractor, probably sent by a temp agency to do janitorial inspections or office maintenance. But this man wasn't just anyone. He was Damon Carter, the founder and CEO of Echelon Realty, a self-made black billionaire who had built the company from the ground up. Damon had spent the last 6 months hearing disturbing rumors, whispers that the inclusive, ethical company he once proudly led had grown arrogant, discriminatory, and rotten beneath the surface. But he didn't want PR teams or fake smiles. He wanted the raw truth. So he did what few CEOs would dare to do. He went undercover. Dressed in plain clothes with a shaved beard and glasses, Damon assumed a new identity. Darryl Green, a middle-aged, recently laid-off factory worker looking for custodial work. He'd arranged for HR to place him through a fake third-party agency. No one had a clue. His plan was simple: spend a week as an invisible employee, watching the true face of his company. What he saw on day one would break his heart. The morning began with orientation. Damon was ushered into a small, windowless break room where 2 junior managers, Kyle and Stephanie, conducted a rushed and dismissive onboarding. They barely looked up from their phones. Stephanie rolled her eyes as she handed Damon a worn-out employee handbook. Kyle smirked, asking in a condescending tone, "So, you ever used a vacuum before?" The room erupted in quiet laughter. Damon chuckled softly, masking the sting in his chest. After orientation, Damon was assigned to the Lower East Wing, a space housing many of the company's newer agents. It was the perfect place to observe the day-to-day culture. Almost immediately, he saw things that made his stomach churn. He noticed how the janitorial staff, most of whom were people of color, were routinely ignored or snapped at. Agents left trash on the floor, spilled coffee, and then acted irritated when it wasn't cleaned up fast enough. At one point, a receptionist named Amber barked at Damon, calling him slow and warning him to hurry up before the partners see you slacking. Later that day, Damon overheard a conversation between 2 agents mocking a black couple they had just met for a home showing. "You really think they can afford a house in this neighborhood?" one sneered. "Bet they're just wasting our time." The other laughed. Damon felt a tight knot form in his chest. By lunchtime, he had seen enough to realize this was not the company he had once nurtured. The people he had trusted to lead had grown cold and careless. The culture he thought was empowering had become toxic. But it wasn't until day 2 that things truly crossed the line. The next morning, Damon arrived early and caught a senior partner named Brent berating a janitor in the hallway. The janitor, a timid older man named Luis, had accidentally left a mop bucket near the door. Brent shoved the bucket aside and called Luis a useless idiot, loud enough for the entire office to hear. When Luis apologized, Brent waved him off and muttered something about immigrants not knowing how to do anything right. Damon clenched his fists but kept calm. He needed to see more. That same day, he was assigned to clean the executive floor. There, he was shocked to hear top-level conversations about clients being filtered based on zip codes and last names. Blatant redlining disguised as target marketing. In one painful moment, Damon saw a black couple being talked down to by an agent named Courtney, who exaggerated loan complexities and downplayed available listings. The couple left confused and discouraged. Damon followed them out briefly and apologized, saying he hoped they wouldn't give up. They looked at him puzzled, but thanked him. Damon went home that night with a heavy heart. He didn't sleep. Everything he had built was being twisted into something ugly, something he no longer recognized. But he had seen enough. And the next morning, Damon Carter came back to work. Not as Daryl the janitor, but as himself. He walked into the lobby wearing a tailored suit, clean-shaven, eyes fierce with purpose. Security immediately recognized him and opened the elevator. Word traveled fast. By the time he reached the 20th floor, a group of stunned executives was already scrambling. Damon held a company-wide meeting. Every employee was called into the main conference hall. The energy was tense. Nervous laughter filled the space. When Damon took the stage, silence fell. He began calmly, telling the room about his journey, about how Echelon Realty was born from a desire to build something better, a place where people of every background could find a home, a career, and respect. Then he revealed that for the last 2 days, he had been working undercover. Gasps echoed across the room. Kyle and Stephanie went pale. Brent visibly trembled. Amber looked like she wanted to disappear. Damon began listing names, describing incidents, quoting conversations word for word. No one could deny it. He had receipts, recordings, security footage, everything. And then came the moment no one would forget. Damon fired 7 employees on the spot, including Brent, Kyle, Stephanie, Courtney, and Amber. He didn't stop there. He announced a sweeping internal audit, a new DEI leadership team, mandatory cultural sensitivity training, and a full review of client handling protocols. But Damon didn't just clean house. He rebuilt the culture. He promoted Luis, the janitor, to facilities supervisor with a raise and benefits. He reached out to the black couple and assigned them the company's top agent with a promise to personally oversee their home search. He implemented an anonymous employee feedback system and made weekly walkthroughs part of his leadership role. The story of Damon Carter's undercover mission spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up. Social media praised him. But more importantly, within Echelon Realty, a shift began. People talked to each other with more respect. They listened. They looked inward. And though Damon had to break his own heart to find the truth, in doing so, he saved his company's soul. Because sometimes, to fix what's broken, you have to walk the halls unnoticed, and then return as the storm they never saw coming. But the story didn't end there. In the following weeks, Damon quietly reached out to dozens of past clients who had left Echelon Realty unsatisfied. Some were people of color who had been subtly pushed toward less desirable listings. Others were working-class families who had been ghosted after pre-qualification checks. Damon personally called each one. Some were shocked to hear from a billionaire CEO, but Damon didn't care about titles. He wanted to listen. One conversation stood out. A single mother named Keisha had been denied assistance by the very agent Damon had fired. She'd felt humiliated and discouraged. Damon invited her back, walked her through better options, and even secured her a special grant through one of Echelon's new community housing initiatives. She cried on the phone. Damon cried too. These weren't charity cases. They were course corrections. Damon knew that true leadership meant repairing the harm, not just cutting out the rot. He expanded outreach efforts, partnering with local Black-owned businesses, neighborhood coalitions, and housing nonprofits. He brought in young interns from underrepresented communities, offering mentorship and real estate training. For every door that had been closed unjustly, He promised to open 10 more. Internally, the culture at Echelon began to change. New leadership emerged. People who had been overlooked before, but were full of empathy, skill, and vision. Staff started using the break room again, not just for lunch, but for conversation. Departments that once never spoke began collaborating. The hierarchy flattened. And Damon? He walked the halls daily, still unannounced, still watching. He learned that real change doesn't come from speeches or policy memos. It comes from presence, from listening, from accountability. Echelon Realty became not just a company, but a movement, a symbol of redemption, resilience, and rebirth. And while Damon never forgot the pain of what he uncovered, he wore it like armor. Because he knew that to protect something precious, sometimes you have to confront the shadows, even if they live in your own house. He remained vigilant, because one man had once gone undercover to see the truth, and that truth had changed everything.